What if I told you the last video of Nolan Wells alive might not even be from the day he disappeared? What if the timeline everyone has been trusting, the timeline the media keeps repeating, doesn't actually match the GPS data pulled directly from the boats? And what if the one person who could clear up the biggest contradiction in this entire case has never been asked the question directly? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you documents, GPS coordinates, and a video that surfaced just days ago. A video almost nobody has broken down properly. And by the end of this, you're going to understand why I believe this case is being told to you in pieces and not the full picture. If this is your first time here, welcome to Fugitive TV. I don't do speculation for clicks. I do research. I read documents. I compare timelines. And when something doesn't add up, I tell you, even if it's not the popular narrative. So buckle up, because this one gets deep. Let's start from the beginning, for anyone just tuning in. Nolan Wells, 18 years old, spent July 4th out on Horn Island, off the coast of Mississippi, near Biloxi. It's a popular spot. Boats anchor together, people swim, drink, celebrate. By most accounts, somewhere between 20 and 25 people were out there that day, spread across at least 3 boats. Nolan went out with a group that included 3 friends often mentioned in interviews. At some point in the afternoon, according to different accounts, and this is where it gets messy, Nolan was last seen either on the beach, in the water, or on the back of a boat. 2 days later, his body was recovered. And that's when everything exploded online. Because here's the problem. From day one, the story has changed depending on who's telling it. Not small details, big ones.
Times.
Locations.
Who he was with.
Whether he'd even met certain people before that day. So today, I'm going to walk you through the newest piece of this puzzle, a video that surfaced just this week. And then I'm going to show you why the timeline attached to it might completely change what we think we know. A video was uploaded to Instagram, not recently filmed, but recently discovered. Someone doing a deep search found it sitting there, posted the same week as Nolan's disappearance, barely noticed. In the video, a boat is anchored, people are swimming, drinks in hand, music playing. Standard beach day content. But near the end of the clip, the camera pans to the back of the boat, and there's a young man bending over near the swim platform.
Shorts.
Skin tone. Build. People online immediately started saying, "That looks like Nolan." Now here's what makes this interesting. This isn't the first time this exact boat has appeared. There's another photo, one that's been circulating for weeks, showing a young man bending over on what looks like the same boat, with the same rope tie down, the same drink near his foot, even the same dry bag sitting on the edge for phones and electronics. When I zoomed in and cleaned up the boat's name, not with AI, because AI will literally invent letters it can't read clearly, which makes the image useless as evidence, I confirmed the actual name on the hull. It's the same boat in both images. So now the question becomes, when exactly was this second video filmed? Because the caption on the Instagram post says it was filmed at 11:17 a.m. before the island got crowded. But TMZ, reporting on the same clip, says the metadata embedded in the video shows a recording time of 2:23 p.m. That's not a small gap. That's over 3 hours. And here's why that gap matters more than you think. I managed to get my hands on what appears to be official law enforcement documentation regarding the boat's GPS system. The actual chart plotter data extracted directly off the vessel and copied onto a memory card by investigators. According to this data, the boat left a private residence at 9:56 a.m. It arrived at Horn Island at 11:14 a.m. From 11:15 a.m. onward, the GPS shows a stationary position, meaning the boat didn't move again until later that afternoon. Now think about that. If the Instagram video was really filmed at 11:17 a.m., that's only 3 minutes after the boat arrived. 3 minutes. That is not enough time for someone to have already been in the water, climbed back onto the boat, and been caught mid-motion on camera the way he is in that clip. But if TMZ is right and it was actually 2:23 p.m., that changes everything. That would put Nolan, if it is him, on that boat hours later than the caption claims. So which is it? Because depending on the answer, this video either confirms a sighting that fits the established timeline or it completely contradicts it. And nobody, not the family, not law enforcement, not the person who posted it, has clarified this publicly. Somebody knows the truth. Somebody has the original file with the real metadata. So, why hasn't this been addressed directly on camera by anyone involved? Now, let's talk about Katie. Because this is where the story gets even messier. In interviews, Nolan's mother has stated, more than once, that she had never heard of Katie before this happened. That Katie reached out to her after the disappearance. That statement has been repeated in multiple interviews. But then, a post allegedly written by a woman claiming to be a sheriff's deputy and allegedly a relative of Nolan surfaced online, saying something very different. It reads, essentially, we all know and love Katie. She's been to countless family events. Nobody in our family blames her. So, which is it? Because those two statements cannot both be true. Either Nolan's mother forgot a close family friend who's allegedly attended countless events with them, or someone else is stretching the truth to protect a friendship on social media. And it gets even stranger, because this same deputy, in another public post, refers to my family while discussing Nolan's death and separately posts asking people to stop with the conspiracies about her family. If she is who she claims to be, she's speaking from inside information most people don't have access to. So, why hasn't she been formally interviewed on camera? Now, let's add another layer. Katie posted her own statement online, defending herself against online hate. But if you read it closely, she never actually says how long she's known Nolan. She never gives a timeline. She defends her character. She asks people to pray, but she conveniently, or maybe innocently, never answers the one question everyone actually wants answered. How well did you actually know him? Comments under her post are split down the middle. Some people say they've known her for years and vouch for her sincerity. Others claim she had literally just met Nolan that day. One commenter even claims she was trying to get him to leave with her on the boat before he disappeared. If that's true, if she was one of the last people trying to get him to leave, why has nobody who was actually on that boat with her come forward and confirmed her timeline? Silence. That's what we have. Silence where confirmation should be. Let's talk about the dispatch call, because this is the piece of audio everyone online has picked apart. A user online took the original call and isolated certain vocal tracks, claiming to reveal words that weren't clear in the original recording. Words like a name that sounds like Nolan. A phrase that sounds like check his chest. Here's my problem with this. The process was never shown. We don't see step 1, step 2, step 3 of how the audio was isolated. On a platform like TikTok, everything moves fast, but fast isn't the same as accurate. Without seeing the actual breakdown of how that audio was cleaned, we cannot rule out that words are being interpreted rather than heard. I sat with this audio on professional studio equipment multiple times. And what strikes me more than any single word is the tone, the pacing. If something serious happened on that boat, the voices on that call are remarkably calm, controlled, almost rehearsed. Now, that alone doesn't prove anything. People react to trauma in wildly different ways. Shock can sound like calm, but it's a detail that deserves more scrutiny than it's gotten, not less. Now, let's talk about the media side of this, because I think this is where the real manipulation is happening. Not necessarily from the family, from how this story is being packaged for you. There's a recent interview where a legal representative involved in this case describes Nolan going out with 3 friends, young white teenagers, and says Nolan was the only black teenager in the group and that somehow they all came home safely except Nolan. Now sit with that phrasing for a second. If this was the very first time you ever heard about this case, if you had zero background, what would your brain immediately assume from that framing alone? You'd assume Nolan was alone with 3 people the entire day. You'd assume those 3 people are the only ones who know what happened. You would build an entire narrative in your head based on that framing. But that's not accurate. Nolan wasn't out there with 3 people. He was out there with somewhere between 20 and 25 people spread across 3 separate boats, all anchored together at the same island. That's not a minor omission. That's the difference between a controlled narrative and the actual scope of the day. And when this same person was asked directly, on camera, why Nolan's phone ended up separated from him, watch what happens. He doesn't answer the question. He pivots immediately into talking points about crossing every T and looking under every rock, phrases that sound powerful, but say absolutely nothing. The interviewer even had to point it out directly. The question wasn't answered. And here's what really gets me. If someone is truly demanding answers, truly wants to know exactly what happened to their loved one, why hasn't there been a sit-down between every single person who was on those boats? Not a press conference, not a statement through a lawyer, an actual room, with every witness, going through the timeline minute by minute. Nolan's mother has said publicly that one of the friends reached out to her directly. But that same friend has separately claimed, in another interview, that they had possession of Nolan's phone at one point. Nobody has asked her directly, on camera, whether that claim is true or false. Nobody has asked why the friend described as Nolan's closest friend by the family didn't personally call Nolan's mother, and instead, another friend had to reach out and ask for her number. These aren't accusations. These are basic, obvious questions that any real investigation, journalistic or legal, should be asking immediately. And the fact that they aren't being asked publicly should concern you more than any leaked video or GPS document. Here's why I keep coming back to this case day after day, video after video. It's not because I think I know exactly what happened to Nolan Wells. I don't. Nobody watching this does either, no matter how confident they sound in the comment section. It's because I've watched in real time how a story gets shaped before the facts are even in. A photo gets shared. Turns out it's from a week before the incident. Nobody corrects it publicly. An altered image gets posted, showing something that was never actually in the original photo, and it's still up right now, uncorrected, being shared as fact. This is how narratives get built, not with lies exactly, but with gaps. Gaps that get filled in by assumption, by outrage, by whoever posts first and loudest. And once that gap is filled, people stop asking questions, because in their mind, the story is already complete. But a complete story built on assumption isn't the truth. It's just a story that feels finished. And I refuse to hand you a finished story when the real one isn't finished at all. So here's where we're at. We have a video with a 3-hour discrepancy in its timestamp that nobody has clarified. We have a family-friend narrative that directly contradicts statements from Nolan's own mother. We have a phone that changed hands, according to one friend's own words, that still hasn't been addressed publicly. And we have a media narrative that conveniently leaves out 20-plus witnesses who were on that island that day. Something here doesn't add up. And I don't think it's an accident that it doesn't add up. I have more documents. I have more names. Names I'm not releasing yet because unlike some people spreading the story, I actually care about getting this right before I put someone's life on blast. But I promise you this, I am not stopping until the real timeline comes out. If you have information, screenshots, documents, anything relevant to this case, my email is in the description, and yes, you can send it anonymously. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think that's really Nolan on the back of that boat? Do you think Katie is telling the whole story? Drop your theory below, and if you think I missed something, call it out, because this community has cracked more of this case than any news outlet has. If this video helped you understand the full picture, hit subscribe, because I post updates on this case the moment new information surfaces, sometimes within hours. This is Fugitive TV. Stay sharp. Watch your surroundings. And I'll see you in the next one.